informed and hit upon, and, you're blossoming. And these books are helping. And then there was the center, the LGBT Center, which is on 13th Street down in Manhattan, where I started going to their youth group on advice from a counselor, high school counselor, Tracy Salonides, at John Jay High School. She had started a little group where she was doing a little counseling with people. One, because I was a reluctant student, not so much a truant, but just reluctant. I'm not a morning person. I've never been a morning person. They didn't want to hear that in high school. So I often missed first and second period, and they did all kinds of contraptions and manipulations, including getting me a job so that I would make the first and second periods. So she then has this group where she's discussing identity and sexuality and stuff, which is good and wonderful. And so it's helpful to me. And of course, by about my junior year, I had been working in sales. So I was sales part-time, so I was making adult salary. So I'm out in the world. And from an educated family class that kind of accepts more broad diversity, so I'm able to have deeper discussions about, maybe I think I might wanna, and maybe I should, and I'm gonna try that over there, and I've been careful over there. And at the same time, I have my family, which has taught me to critically think, essentially. And this counselor, which I'm able to discuss these things with, that I'm bumping into out in the wilds of Manhattan. So I got like a shepherding into how to manage this identity, and I think this is when I talk in front of groups and stuff, or I've done workshops for different organizations for years, and only a couple of them have I been able to videotape. They're on YouTube. It's one of the reasons why I'm HIV negative, because I had Clyde, the social worker, in family therapy. I had my mother's experience with psychology. I had the closer family, parental acceptance of diversity, because my mother and father were the youngest children, and my father left Louisiana to come here to New York City to go to school. My mother was the first into college, besides her slightly older sister who did some classes. So they were outliers themselves. So it wasn't unusual for me to be an outlier, and they'd been prepared for me to be an outlier by the whole family therapy thing. Then I get Tracy in high school, is also my counselor. Then I've got teachers who are interested in mentoring me, particularly in writing. I was writing and publishing in high school, and wrote a screenplay and helped direct a movie and everything like that. So I had lots of structure helping me be me. So even in high school, hey, we need somebody to write a screenplay for the soap opera club, and then did that because you're doing all this writing and everybody's talking about you. Well, teachers are talking about you. And then we had then an advanced program in Long Island University that I went to for years to learn about advanced video and filmmaking and stuff. Again, more mentors there. Again, an exposure to college, because some of the production assistants were college students that were also helping teach us on the weekends and stuff. Plus college professors, Spike Lee and Monty Ross, I met them. So all of this, there's a structure, a guidance, a role modeling. And then I have Tracy to talk to about issues of identity and sexuality. She refers me to the center that has a youth group where they have counselors, where they have people my age too. So I'm going out. So I wasn't sheltered, because I had a greater level of independence than most of my peers in high school, even some of my peers in the center group. But I was role modeled and shepherded and mentored into everything a little bit, so that, and then at the same time, like I said, I'm picking up all these books and reading all these books about stuff, going to clubs, trying stuff out, having friends. Some of my friends were older than me, and I have good manners, and I've always had good manners and presented well. It is not unusual. I've been in a suit and tie for work since I was about 15, 16 years old. So I always presented as more mature, which allowed me to get into spaces and with people to actually see what was going on, understand what was going on. So I've always been a little advanced in my understanding of the world. So I've never been exactly innocent. Um, that then means when I go back to that, I'm sitting in the center, or with Tracy, or even with my mother, who brought it up, my parents brought it up, kind of with my hands folded, listening deeply to the safe sex discussions. Ooh, don't do that, don't do that. I will say, and this is a very oddly personal point, New York City, and probably other cities as well, definitely Los Angeles and Chicago, and probably Miami, have city-state sponsored prophylactics, condoms, where they're stamped and have a little I Love New York on them and everything like that. And it's the Department of Health's way for the state to kind of help with both birth control and safe sex, and they have been tens of millions, I'm sure, by now. But I remember them being given out at nightclubs that you went to, and it'd be a big basket and stuff. And then I would go to the center, and even Tracy had them in her office and stuff like that. So that when it came to it, and it came to lessons, and there was even a health education teacher that whose name I can't remember, and I probably have to look it up, where I was going back and forth to her health class in her office and stuff, and I walked in her office one day, and there were two young ladies in there, and she had this big chart of the female sexual anatomy up, and I was like, oh, I'm sorry, I just came to ask you a question about something. She said, no. In fact, you sit down too. It was an older black woman. So she sat three of us down and showed them their insides on one side of the chart, and she flipped the chart over and she showed me and explained about reproductive health and safe sex and pregnancy and all those kinds of things. And then, and you think, well, didn't you kind of know this by 16? You weren't a virgin any longer. What I was surprised by was that women had urethras. I knew there was an anus. I knew there was a vagina. I didn't know there was a urethra. And I was like, oh, shoot. I remember actually learning that from the chart from that discussion.